Hi. So I just wanted to know what your take was on, you said with education to fire the bad teachers. What's your definition of bad teachers?
Great question. So how many people here think you've had at least one teacher that deserves to be fired? Everyone raised their hand always. So the question is, how do you find them, right? So I got this question asked a lot. Here's the interesting thing. So when President Obama was running for president in 2008, one of his big things, he said it over 40 times, was that we need to have a system that rewards good teachers and fires bad ones. But the question is always, how do you find the bad ones? So is it test scores? Probably not. Is it, peer evaluation? The best metric is you have teachers grade teachers and you have parental input. Here's the thing. You know the really, really bad teachers. Those have got to go. I had teachers earning $150,000 a year, barely showing up for class, teaching gym, doing nothing, being completely lazy. They're a drain on the school budget, they're a drain on the local community, and they should be fired instantaneously. The problem is, under current teacher tenure laws in certain states, in most states, they are protected by contracts designed by teacher unions that make it nearly impossible to fire bad teachers. If they're not productive, they don't put time in. So I would support reform and a system that allows really good teachers. Here's the thing. Some teachers, this might be a surprise to some of my liberal counterparts, so I had public school teachers that changed my life, that did unbelievable amount of work. They got in at 6 a.m. every day. They worked their tail off. Then I had teachers that would take half the year off. They just didn't care. They were bratty. They thought it was horrible. And yet the one that didn't put as much effort was earning more than the person that was just there. That is not the way that we should reward, I believe, teachers in this country. Teachers are modern day heroes. I'm very, very pro-teacher, very anti-teacher union. So I think that's the big distinction. So.
What about professors?
Professors?
Yeah, like college, at the college level.
I believe this similar thing. I think that we currently have a system that rewards professors that want to write their book and sell it back to their class. I think that's it's a fair point. It's also rewards professors that do most studying and not actually engaging with their current class. Here's the problem: is that most college freshmen are taught by TAs, teachers' assistants. So they're getting something. They're paying for something they're not even getting. I think measuring value in a professor should be different than that of a teacher, but here's the big difference, is that public school teachers in K through 12 education have to be held to a different standard than professors. It just has to be. There's more K through 12 teachers than there are professors, a lot more, almost 10-to-1 ratio.
Okay, but with the whole point on the TAs, they're usually doctoral students.
Yes.
That are turning into professors. So why is that how are the TAs supposed to
Because when you start to have class sizes that are 500 people and plus, when you have TAs that are not yet masters on the subject that you're paying a pretty penny on, that deserves question. Because you are going to college to learn from subject matter experts in an environment where you can dive deep into that particular topic, so on and so forth. So if I'm paying, or I'm being forced to pay, $800 for this sociology class or human studies class, and I'm getting taught by a TA with 800 people in a lecture hall this big, that there's something I think wrong with that. I think because you're paying a pretty penny for something that is then, very, I would say, inadequate.
Interference with free speech. I wonder how you view the laws in Florida and other states that restrict what professors can teach about racism in the classroom. I mean, obviously you disagree with the doctrines you teach, but why, would you extend to them the same right to free speech that you advocate for everybody else?
No, I mean, it's a matter of curriculum, right? So I would ask a question: should we teach the flat earth theory in physics, right? Should we teach bloodletting in biology? Should we teach lobotomies in medical school? Or should we teach eugenics in ethics? No, there's some ideas that are so reprehensible and provably wrong, they shouldn't be anywhere close to an academic environment. Now, a professor obviously has the freedom of speech to say what he or she wants individually, but from a curriculum standpoint, from what you're able to measure or test, to say that all of a sudden we're going to teach that race matters, that somehow that people are suffering from a pandemic of whiteness, as Coca-Cola would say, or just critical theory or critical race theory, no, that has no place in an educational environment, because in an educational environment, it's less about really the opinion of the teacher or the opinion of the student. It's the pursuit of the soul and the entire being of the student towards truth, goodness, and beauty. And so you must have a teleological destination for that. Yes, a follow-up.
Just one follow-up, which is, so you would say that the idea that there's systemic racism in this country is as off base as the idea that the earth is flat and as provably wrong as the idea that the earth is flat?
Yes, I mean, I would ask you, how are we systemically racist?
Well, I mean, we could have a long discussion, but I'm a journalist. I don't think it's a place for it, but possibly if you attended a class on it, you might get in a debate with the professor and see what their data shows and whether it's a matter of scholarly dispute. I mean, there's a lot of books on both sides, or whether it's as, I'm not aware of a lot of scholarly, accepted books that advocate that the earth is flat. So I would say this is a matter of scholarly debate.
There was till Galileo came along.
Okay. Well, anyway, thank you very much.
Thank you. And yeah, just to close it, yes, I think advocating for black-only dormitories is a moral equivalent of bloodletting, lobotomies, and flat earth theory. I think it's evil, it's wrong, and has no place in American education.
Hi, y'all. So before I ask my question, I want to clarify a point that y'all mentioned earlier. You said you don't believe in white privilege, correct?
Yeah, it's a myth. It doesn't exist.
Okay. So according to the Bureau of Prison Statistics from last month, 38.3% of our current inmate population is black. But according to the 2020 census data, only 12.2% of our national population is black. So if you don't believe in white privilege, how do you explain this disparity?
So why are they in jail?
It has been this way for years, since the 90s.
No,
since
why do people go to jail?
Why are black people in jail at higher rates than white people?
That's the question, right? Maybe because they
Yes.
commit more crimes than white people.
But that's not true.
It actually is.
They do. So every independent analysis shows that blacks have commit a disproportionate amount of crime. No one wants to say it out loud, but it's true. In fact, in New York, 52% of murders are committed by blacks, 40+% of arson, 60+% of drug deals. And so the question you should really be asking is what drives them to commit crimes? That's the question, right? The real question is, and maybe I can ask you, what percentage of blacks are raised with two parents in the home?
So actually, according to the Uniform Crime Report for 2019, black or African American individuals committed only about 1 million crimes, while white people committed about 4 million
Yeah,
crimes.
so,
Yeah, but
yeah,
that's
but hold on.
proportion.
Yeah, how about the proportion?
There's a lot more white people than black people in the United States.
It's a 60% white country and a 14% black country. So you just proved my point. You literally, so basically that's a disproportionate amount of crime. It is.
But listen, I want to say, look, you are coming up here and you're asking a question, and that's not easy to do, first and foremost, no matter what. And I really appreciate your question in front of all these people. It's hard. So thank you for asking your question. But let me point out what you just did, and you didn't know that you did it. You switched from proportion to raw numbers. That's right. And you did that to make a point that you thought you were making, but you weren't. But look, your issue was that Black Americans only make up 13% of the population, and yet they make up, I think you said, like 38% of the prison population. And then you switched to raw numbers because, so Black people only make up 13% of the population, but they commit 40% of all homicides and 60% of all violent crime. Unfortunately, I don't think that's anything inherent in Black Americans. That's not what I'm saying. That's just the fact. And what Charlie is saying is, look, we've got to look at why that is. So you're claiming that that disparity is inherent proof of discrimination. So would you also say the fact that there are fewer Asians in jail means that than white people, that there is discrimination against white people? No. Disparity isn't proof of discrimination is what I'm trying to say.
So let me just throw, and Allie's exactly right. What percentage of blacks grow up with two parents in the home?
I don't know.
Yeah, less than 20%. That's why there's so many blacks committing crimes and they're in jail. It's that simple. The death of the black family is why blacks are in jail higher than their population percentage. It's that simple.
May I see your criminology degree? Do you have one?
I'm sorry.
No,
Wait.
We've gotta, are you a
We gotta
biologist?
argue from an expert
Ketanji
that-
Brown Jackson.
No, let me ask you a question. So do I need a criminology degree to be able to understand that 75% of blacks don't grow up with two parents?
To be well versed in it, I believe so.
Do you have one?
I don't, but I'm studying it.
Okay,
right
but
now.
you.
Oh, she studied it.
But you did the same thing. You looked at a statistic, and he did the same thing. You
Look,
don't have a criminology
Have you
degree,
even
and
taken a
neither does
criminology
he.
course? Have y'all
Hold on
taken
a second. You're doing an argument from authority, okay?
It's a fallacy.
So the laws of physics don't change whether or not you're a physicist, okay? The law of thermodynamics doesn't change whether or not you take a course on it. Answer the question. Why do blacks have a broken family versus a nuclear family, and does that translate to higher rates of crime? Do you admit that?
Why is it that blacks don't have parents, though? Why?
Good question. We subsidize single motherhood in this country through the federal government of the United States. Great question. Now we're getting somewhere. Back in the 1960s, we put forward a program where black women married the government and broke up with the men they were with. Welfare state, Lyndon Baines Johnson, and that has contributed to blacks committing more crimes.
I believe institutionalized racism is your answer, but I don't believe I'm getting
Oh,
anywhere
but
with y'all.
But no, just let me point something out. Did you know that it's not white Americans that have the lowest incarceration rate or the lowest rates of crime or the highest graduation rates or the highest median income? It's not white Americans. It's Asian Americans. They have the highest median income. They have the highest graduation rates. They have the most degrees. They have the lowest incarceration rates. And guess what? They also have the lowest single parenthood rates. Okay? So that is true across the board. It's not just black Americans. And unless you are willing to say that the reason why Asian Americans make more than white Americans or the reason why Asian Americans go to jail less than white Americans is because there is systemic institutional racism against white people in this country, then your argument against black people doesn't really work.
So let me ask you one thing. You said institutional racism. I got a black friend right up here. He's great. He's great. So let me ask you. Let me ask you a question. What can I do that he can't do?
What do you mean?
If institutional racism was real, what can I do that he can't do?
Well, you're less likely to get arrested.
I'm sorry. No,
That's
if we
less-
both commit a crime, he's going to get arrested and I'm not?
He could.
Wait, so we just went through this. Blacks commit a disproportionate amount of crime in this country because of broken families. So give me one law on the books.
not because
You
of
said it's
broken
institutional. Give me a law anywhere that discriminates against blacks. Give me one law anywhere in America.
You want current or past?
How about right now?
Well, the fact that crack cocaine is criminalized more than regular cocaine.
No.
is
If I deal
a law against blacks.
if I deal crack cocaine, I'm getting arrested regardless of skin color. Give me a
But if you were
law
dealing white cocaine, you're
Give
less
me a
likely
law
to get a harsher
anywhere
sentence.
that allows white people to commit crimes and get away with it and blacks can't. Does that law exist?
Not anymore. But that
Because
doesn't
there's
mean
no
it's not real.
institutional racism in America.
Because there's
The idea of institutional racism is laws on the books.
Just because it's not down on paper doesn't mean it's not real.
Okay, give us an example. Not just
God.
a disparity. Not just a
God?
disparity.
God isn't. You don't see God.
He's on paper. Read the Bible.
I didn't mean it like that. I'm getting nowhere with y'all, and y'all are not answering my question, so I'm going to end this Q&A right here. Thank you for your time.
We actually did answer her questions, but I do appreciate, even though she's got an attitude, I do appreciate her courage. I do. That is difficult. That's difficult
Yeah,
to
I
come
mean,
up
it's
here and ask
difficult,
a
but
question, but you can also do it respectfully.
But what bothered me about her, I'm glad she was there. She wasn't being honest. At least be honest, okay? And be willing to be corrected. Well, that was a fun fireworks show to end our time together, right?